Oh, good evening. Well, I thought I'd do a little video on masking canopies with bare metal foil. I had originally planned to do this quite a bit later, but my current video, which was going to be this video, but is now going to be the next video on painting and weathering, is taking a little bit longer than I thought it would, so I thought I'd just throw this one in there. So, bare metal foil. There it is right there. You well know its uses for model cars. And there is a picture of a model car. Show you. And here's a few examples of ones I've done using bare metal foil for the trim and around the windows. To those of you not familiar with it, bare metal is a very thin self-adhesive foil that conforms to compound curves very nicely, making it ideal for masking canopies and other bizarre shapes. Now, as before, I am not paid by anyone to endorse the product. I'm simply a big fan. But bare metal, send me money. I like this stuff. Baby needs a new pair of shoes. Anyway, I'm often bemused when I read an article where the modeler has spent countless minutes, hours, days, weeks cutting thin strips of masking tape in odd shapes and punching out little circles and meticulously, slowly and carefully masking their canopies that way. Somebody help me, help me. It is so much easier and quicker with this stuff. And today, I'll show you how we do it. Send me money. Alrighty, let's get started. So this is what I use. Use a toothpick for burnishing the foil down. Tweezers are very useful for getting it off the sheet. Hobby knife, I recommend using a new blade because any slight dullness will just tear the foil. So brand new blade works best. And for the demonstration, I'm just using a canopy from Ye Old Spares box. I believe this is a monogram P39 is what that was. So all we do, we got our aforementioned bare metal foil. There we go. Sort of guide like that. Now I'm going to attempt to do this with one piece. Obviously, if you've got a canopy that's very curved in multiple directions or it's multi-piece, you're probably going to end up using more than one piece of foil, but that's okay. That works. Out of there. It does tear quite easily because it is very thin. But that is the reason why it does conform to compound curves so very nicely. Alrighty. Get that over there. Now, don't worry too much if you get a bunch of wrinkles in here. That's really not going to be a problem with the end result. Just smooth it down as much as I can with my fingers and thumbs. That. And one of the advantages, of course, is that you can see the detail underneath very easily because it does conform to it so well. As you can see there, the panel lines are coming out. Okay, so get it down there. Then I just use the toothpick to further burnish the foil down. Try to get as many wrinkles out as you can, but like I say, not a huge deal if you can't. We are only using this to mask. You really only need to be concerned that the paint isn't going to bleed underneath. And if you don't lay it on too thickly, that isn't usually a problem. There we go. That's looking pretty good. Okay, so now it's just a case of trimming it off with our hobby knife, and you don't need to use a lot of pressure here. Just the actual weight of the knife handle itself is usually more than enough, I find. Just go very slowly, very carefully. Get it in around the panel lines. There we go. I'm not going to show you the entire painful, boring process. It really doesn't take very long. So I'm going to trim all the rest of these frame lines, and I'll come back to you in a minute or two. Alrighty, so there we go. I've done all my cuts all around my frame lines there. One other step that I do just before I remove the unwanted bits is I just reburnish along the frame lines to make sure the bits that I want to keep are stuck down nicely. And then it's just a case of removing the bits you don't want. And one thing to be aware of as well, make sure you get right into the corners, because when you're pulling this off, otherwise it'll pull those parts up, and the foil that you want to stay down will start to pull up on you a little bit. So do make sure you've got them cut completely off there. And like, there's a good example right there. I didn't get right into that little nook and cranny there. Using my toothpick to hold it down. There we go. Tweezers. Nope. Try not to drop it. That's less effective. And use the tip of the knife. Obviously, you want to be careful that you don't scratch your canopy when you're using this. Get off there. Gosh darn it. Okay, so I've got all the frame line parts removed, the parts where the paint will go on. And some of the corners on this, especially in the back here, were slightly curved, slightly rounded. And so that's another advantage of using bare metal, is that it's so much easier to do that instead of trying to fiddle bits of tape in that little tiny curvy corner there. Far easier. Alrighty, apply the paint of your choice. I've used Gunzy acrylic here, and then just remove the remaining mask by getting the tip of your hobby knife under the edges and carefully peeling it off. It will come off quite easily. And there you have it. Nicely done canopy lines with a minimum of fuss and no endless cutting of tape and applying it. I will mention that if you're like me and you tend to start a project and then leave it in the box for a couple of months, and if you've mastered canopy with bare metal, it will be a little bit more difficult to get off at that point, but nevertheless, it will come off, albeit in little tiny pieces, and it may leave a little bit of a residue, but that's very easily removed with a touch of mineral spirits on a piece of paper towel, or you can actually use WD-40. That works very well also. And of course, it's not just for masking canopies, it's also very useful for masking wheels. You get nice sharp edges that way. Here's some examples. I use it almost exclusively for masking wheels. It's quick and easy. Turns out very well, I think. There we go, there's another one there. And of course, there are many, many more uses besides that. I also used it to mask the black wing roots on this Grumman F2F, because especially with that tight little curve up at the front there, that would have been very difficult to do with masking tape. So bare metal foil, much, much easier. And also, because it is so thin, you don't get that buildup of paint along the edges like you do with masking tape, which can leave a little ugly kind of ridge there. So you don't get that with bare metal. So there we have it. Bare metal foil, the foil of 1,000 uses. Check it out. So thank you so much for watching, and to everyone who watched my previous videos and liked and subscribed and commented and had a nap, painted a model, petted a dog, whatever. Thank you very much. And I do have a membership thingy happening now. There are 3 levels of that. Please do check that out. There are some pretty good perks there, I think. And it will help to finance this channel and hopefully, maybe at some point, purchase some better equipment. But more importantly, it will help me to release new products at Thunderbird Models. So, thank you again, and bye-bye.